Thanks, Don. Good afternoon. My name's Stuart Turnus. I've been asked to say a few words about North Dakota Cowboy Hall of Fame nominee Nevada Jorgenson. First, I'd like to congratulate this year's nominees, all the nominees, but maybe in particular this group of modern era rodeo. I know all of them personally, Wade and Larry and Daryl Hermanson and Nevada, and I believe they all, would make outstanding inductees into the Hall of Fame, and I hope one day they're all there. Like I said earlier, I was asked to say a few words about Nevada, a guy that I traveled with a little bit. I could talk to you about, all the championships and titles that Nevada won at local, regional, and national levels, but what I'd also like to tell you about is what type of man Nevada is. My path with Nevada didn't happen until I started riding at PRCA rodeos. I knew Denver and Dale and Dale's sons Tim and Tom from my earlier years in high school and NDRE rodeos, and what I knew about the Jorgensons is they were all outstanding competitors and pretty decent guys. I'd heard about a brother named Nevada, but with Nevada competing at PRCA rodeos, I really hadn't met him until a little bit later. What I respected most about Nevada was here was this rough stock guy competing at the highest levels, and he was married. And that was unusual for me. We were all single when we were rodeoing, and so, he had kids, and he had kids that could tag along with him. I can vividly remember watching Cody on the back of the chutes with all kinds of his own grit and determination cheering for his dad. You couldn't have found a kid more excited to be on the back of those chutes and one to be more proud of his dad. I don't think I'll ever forget watching Cody watching his dad. Another memory I had of Nevada along the same lines was traveling back from somewhere and pulling into Nevada's place out by Baldwin in the early morning hours, and there was a light on the house, and you just knew Wendy was probably still awake waiting for him. Maybe she'd gone to bed, but she was still waiting for him, and she'd be glad to hear the ruckus of him dragging his stuff in and knowing he was home safe and sound. You have to remember that was a time before cell phones, and likely Wendy hadn't heard from him since he jumped in the car with us to go. I remember Nevada had won either first or second at that rodeo, and as I was sitting in the car and Nevada was getting his stuff, I could also imagine Cody and Annie jumping in bed with him in the morning and asking how he'd done and how happy they'd all be for him. So Nevada didn't go to rodeos just to show up or have fun. If you know Nevada, you know Nevada's a businessman. He was very businessman-like with his rodeo. He had a wife and children at home, and he took very serious the reasons for why he wasn't home with them. Nevada knew he had their support when he was gone, and they knew he was going there on business. He was going there on the business of being sharp, he was going there on the business of being prepared, and he was going there on the business of winning. I think Nevada's a perfect example for a younger generation of cowboys and cowgirls to model themselves after. He's a great competitor. The lists of championships that he's won is evidence of that, but he's even a greater person. You just want to be a better person yourself when you hang around Nevada. And by the example he set, he made the people around him want to go about their business and their rodeoing the right way. I'll let you read the rodeo championships and titles that Nevada won, but what I'd like for you to remember most is who Nevada was and still is as he won those rodeo championships and titles. He was a top-notch saddle bronc rider, and he was also a man of outstanding character and integrity. I'd like to encourage the trustees to give strong consideration to including Nevada Jorgenson as they induct this year's class of North Dakota Hall of Fame inductees. Thank you.
It's going to be hard to follow Stuart. A lot of my talk was in the same vein as his regarding Nevada's outstanding character and a man that you definitely want to be around. I was fortunate enough to meet Nevada in 1989. I had just started rodeoing, was poor at it, I think Nevada felt sorry for me. And I remember after one of my many buck-offs, he came over behind the chutes. I was sitting in my saddle and covered in all my dust and dirt, and he came up to me to impart some words of wisdom as I was looking at my saddle, thinking that maybe that was the issue. And he said, "I don't think it's your saddle, Pat. I think you just need to lift on your buck rein." So that was a humbling experience, but you know, fortunately he said to me, he said, "Why don't you jump in with me?" And so I was fortunate enough to travel with Nevada for about 4 or 5 years, and I echo Stuart's sentiments in that Cody was always in tow with us. He was about 12 years old, and we didn't go to a rodeo that Cody wasn't with us. And I witnessed a man that was not just an excellent bronc rider, but a man who was an excellent family man and a very good father. And I always said to myself, this is a gentleman that I'd like to be someday. And so it was an honor to travel with Nevada. Not only was he an inspiration, but it was also humbling to travel with Nevada, as he won most every rodeo or bronc riding we went to. He was awarded the NDRA and NPRA championships many times, and he went on to win the NARC finals in El Paso, Texas in 1992. But what was more important is no matter how many rodeos and buckles Nevada won, he was always a very gracious and deserved champion. I do have a story regarding how competitive he was. He was a fierce competitor in the rodeo arena. I know one spring he called me and he said, "I entered us at Miles City." And for those of you that have been to Miles City, you know that's a pretty big time out there. And a lot of cowboys at that time steered clear of Miles City, as it was a pretty wild bronc riding at that time. But not Nevada. He was excited for us to go, and he entered us. And per typical weekend for Nevada, he won the bronc riding that weekend. And I remember as everybody started heading out on Sunday, we were the very last ones behind the chutes there, and we were putting our gear away. And a guy drives up pulls up in a big semi with a potload of horses, and he gets out and he unloads these horses, and they were like, must have been 20 of these 5, 6-year-old Percheron thoroughbred crosses. They were huge, and I looked at him, and Nevada said, you know, we were wondering what was going on. The gentleman asked if we'd get on for $10 a head, where there were only 2 guys left. There's about 20-some head of them. I was pretty intimidated by it, but not Nevada. Nevada said, "Oh, we'll get on for 15 a head." And for the next hour, I got on 4 head. Nevada had to one-up me. He got on 5. Nevada spurred the head off of every one of them. It was the best bronc riding of the weekend. The only people there were the pickup men. So that was one of my experiences with Nevada. In conclusion, I'd like to say that Nevada Jorgenson is a fine representation of a North Dakota rodeo bronc riding champion, worthy of inclusion with all the many cowboy greats in the North Dakota Cowboy Hall of Fame. He's a champion in the arena, a devout family man, and an all-around fine person. Thank you.
Hello everybody, Bradley Bertine. I just was going to say a few words about all 4 of these guys. I'm friends of mine too, and heroes of mine. And anyway, Nevada, I guess when I was producing rodeos, he'd come around and he could ride anything. You put him on, and he was always class act. And my stud war paint was a little hard to ride, they said. So anyway, he won a round on him at the North Dakota finals. And anyway, I was talking to Nevada here a week or so ago, and he was telling me about riding Moon River and winning Bismarck one time, and he was telling me about riding Half Velvet at Sutton's and winning a couple of rodeos, and some of the other horses. I guess the best story I heard about him was when they had that big bronc riding in Wolf Point, Montana, years back in the 80s, the early 80s. And anyway, he wasn't real as well known as some of the other guys, so I guess they went up there, and this group of guys, he was in the short go, and anyway, in the Calcutta there, and they went up and they thought they were buying Brad Jorgenson, but they bought Nevada Jorgenson. And the guy that bought him, he got him pretty cheap, of course, because they were all waiting for Brad. And anyway, when it was all said and done, Nevada won it and won a pile of money for those guys in the Calcutta. And he was their hero, I guarantee you. So, but he was always really good. He was always fun to be around at the rodeos, and he always treated the horses right. And like these other guys said, you know, he could really, it was good for the young bronc riders, good example for him to look up to. He was humble, and yet he would go around and show them different things with their saddles, with their riding. And I guess he just was always fun to be around, and he rode super good and won a ton of money at the rodeos that I produced back in the day. So that's all I have to say, I guess. But I think he'd be a great addition to the North Dakota Cowboy Hall of Fame.